This leads us, I think each interview we're doing segments so well to the next one because we got warmed up talking about ChatGPT. Now we're going to talk to an author who puts it right out there. He created much of his book with ChatGPT or other AI tools. He's Larry Roberts. He's a fantastic podcaster, speaker, branding expert. Works with Podfest and does their newsletter. He's everywhere, and he's really exploded in the last few years as a personality online and as a person sharing expertise around AI and content creation. Let's bring him on, the author of Under the Red Hat. It is Mr. Larry Roberts. Larry,
what
great
is
to see
happening?
you.
Thank you so much for having me. What's up? My cousin Dale is here as well.
I was going to say, yeah.
I'm
glad you said cousin instead of uncle. You know, then I would have been like, what, dude?
No, not doing the uncle thing at all. No, I'm very cognizant of age.
All right. Well, now that the family reunion is underway,
there you go.
Tell us a little bit, for those who don't know, how this book came together, how you did it. I'm so jealous. You were like, oh, I did this in a few days or a few weeks or whatever. It was so fast. How did you generate a book using AI, and yet it still kind of sounds like I'm listening to Larry?
Yeah, it's interesting, and that's really been my focus as of late, is helping people get ChatGPT specifically to sound just like you. So that's one of my keynote talks. I'm actually doing it not tomorrow, but day after tomorrow over in Fort Worth as well for a big conference. And I've got several other gigs lined up over the next coming weeks that are doing that exact same thing. But this book came to life because of a failure on my part. So I had flown to San Diego to do a talk for Entrepreneurs Organization, and I was talking about generative AI and the power of AI. And the talk went well. And I come off stage and, EO, they do it right, man. So we had a little after party. We were all hanging out and members were coming up to me going, man, I love the talk. Great job. I'd love to buy your book. I didn't have a book. I do have a book on podcasting that did okay back in the day, but this wasn't a book that was relevant to that audience. So I was very, very exposed in this, environment that just was not, it just wasn't a good experience for me personally. So I had another talk that was coming up in 3 or 4 weeks after that one. And I said, dude, I just cannot go to another one and be that exposed. So I came home, told my wife, and cried a little bit. And then I was like, dude, what are you doing? You're talking about the power of generative AI. Use ChatGPT to write a book. So that's exactly what I did. Is I sat down with ChatGPT, came up with some prompts that really allowed me to write a book that was relevant on two fronts. Because Ross, as you said, I do a lot in the branding arena as well. For whatever weird reason, this red hat makes me a branding expert. That's a totally different story. But I wanted to write a book about branding, but I wanted to use AI to do it. And I did that to demonstrate the power of AI, to show what you can do with AI, to show that you can write a book in your own voice, which is absolutely critical, using these AI tools, specifically, once again, ChatGPT. So that's exactly what I did. Ross, you held it up once, but I wrote Under the Red Hat because it is. And why did I call it Under the Red Hat? Well, that's where the brand is. This red hat, it's just a beacon. It's just an identifier. But my personal brand is everything that's under the red hat. So my goal was to write a book to talk about what your brand is and what personal branding is all about, and to understand that personal branding, it's really what's inside your logo or underneath, in my case, my red hat. So, but again, I did it all with ChatGPT, knocked it out in about 3 weeks, got me a nice outline, dug into the chapters with ChatGPT. Now, I did write chapter 3 all by myself. So I'm super proud about that. And the reason I'm so proud about that is because this is kind of what a lot of people miss with AI content generation is AI still doesn't have that emotional intelligence. It still doesn't have that human factor. And in this case, ChatGPT had no idea what the hell a red hat was even all about. So I had to come in and I had to write the story of the red hat. Where did it come from? Why do I wear it? What does it mean? How has it helped me? There's no way that AI could have delivered my own personal stories, which so many authors want to deliver in their book. So I did have to step back, write that one all by myself. But the remaining 11 chapters, 100% AI.
Interesting. So with those other chapters, how much intervention did you put into that? Was it you spent a lot of time doing solid prompts, or did you just do the solid prompts and as soon as it gave you the output, you went and deeply edited it so that way it had some of your fingerprints on it?
Well, deeply is misused in this case because I didn't go too deep with any of my edits. In all honesty, my business partner Sarah Losi, she's a real author, and she she went through and she read the output as well and helped me with some of the edits. But most of it came from the persona modeling I did on the front end before I actually started writing the book, and that's where I've really focused a lot of my we'll call it intense AI work is in that persona modeling. Is making sure that ChatGPT using custom instructions, using detailed prompts, using and leveraging memory that ChatGPT has now, using that functionality to make sure that ChatGPT was speaking through my voice and sounded very, very much like me straight through the entire process.
And it was pulling from your story, so to speak, like all the different things that you had fed ChatGPT for other projects and things it could pull from using memory.
To a certain degree. At the time that I wrote this book, memory wasn't a real big focus with ChatGPT because I wrote this back around September of last year, maybe October, somewhere in that neighborhood. And at the time, we didn't have that memory function that was available to us. But what we did still have at that time was custom instructions. And anybody that has a ChatGPT account has access to these custom instructions. And what those are, there's 2 text boxes in the settings of your ChatGPT account. That top one is how ChatGPT knows about, what do you want ChatGPT to know about you? What do you do? What's your role? What's your profession? What's your business? What's your brand? All this information that's all about you. Then there's another text box that tells ChatGPT exactly how you want it to respond. Do you want it to respond professionally? Do you want it to respond more casually? Do you want bullet point type responses? Do you want storytelling based responses? So you have that opportunity to set up this persona for ChatGPT. And I did that prior to writing this particular book.
Very cool. This is wow. There's so much stuff that's going through my head. One of the things I love how you mentioned real author. I hear a lot of that.
Yeah, I get a lot of shit for that. Honestly, I mean, I get a lot of, and I work as a ghostwriter for some companies that are out there. Yeah. But I get a lot of flack for that because they're like, well, we're using AI to do this. Can we copyright it? Can we trademark it? Is this actually our voice? But I want to make this clear, and I got into it with Jeffrey Hazlett, the former CEO of the C-Suite Network. I don't know if you've heard of the C-Suite Network, but Jeffrey and them, they just took over the Wall Street Journal's top bestseller list for authors. And I was actually on a panel when he was in the audience, and he goes, "Look, you're never going to be a best-selling author with an AI-driven book. It's just not going to happen." And that's how Jeffrey sounds. And the whole point here is that this book, I never wrote it to be a bestseller. This is little more than a credibility piece. Honestly, it demonstrated the power of AI. There's great information here about building a personal brand, but yes, there's no way you're ever going to find an AI, at least not at this stage of the game. You're not going to find an AI written book on the New York Times bestseller list. You could, and I know a lot of authors do this, they become Amazon #1 bestsellers. I could definitely take an AI-driven book and make it an Amazon #1 bestseller. Mm-hmm. But being on actual bestseller list at this stage of the game, not going to happen with an AI-driven book. But this is a glorified business card, is what this is. Mm-hmm. If somebody wants to buy your book, you want to have that credibility, you want to establish yourself as a thought leader, you want to have that book. And you can do that within about 3 weeks. That's what we do now. We write a book in 2 to 3 weeks for our clients. And you have that in hand. I had author copies in my hand in 3 weeks when I wrote this one.
Nice. Well done.
Phenomenal.
Boy, I tell you, our time is going really, really fast. Ross, we just burned through an hour. Larry, we want you to go ahead and give one last plug here for your book and let people know why they should vote for it inside the virtual book fair.
Yeah, and I appreciate the opportunity. Thank you again for having me. You should vote for it just because it demonstrates the progression of authorship, of writing. Granted, I only wrote chapter 3 here, but this is, in my personal, very selfish opinion, a great demonstration of what we can do with modern technology and modern tools at our fingertips. You never have to be exposed again. You never have to show up and go, "Hey, I'd love to buy your book." And well, not have a book. So it's right here. There's no excuses. I would love for you to vote for my book, Under the Red Hat: How to Stand Out in a Crowded Marketplace. And yeah, let's just use AI going forward.
Well, it's not only a good book; it's also a great business card, and it's really, really powerful branding.
And I got to tell you too, my thing real quick. I know we're running out of time, but I had to have a spine. My goal was, if I didn't have a spine on my book, it was a pamphlet. So I was able to build out my book with AI so that I could get that spine on there, because that was a critical component for me personally. I didn't want to write a pamphlet. I wanted a freaking book. So, anyways,
a few pictures and appendices.
I may have came up with a prompt that said, "Hey, give me a quote from influencers that I may or may not have put in front of every chapter." There, you can see the picture of the red hat. That's the quote page.
Genius.
Those got me my extra pages so I could get me my spine there.
Very nice.
Well done.
Thank you
Full
so
disclosure.
much. Book is Under the Red Hat. If you haven't seen it enough, it matches the man's branding, and it's Larry Roberts. Thank you so much,
Thanks,
Larry.
guys.
Always great to spend some time with you.